Welcome to Smarter at Dinner with Noah Horner. I'm launching a new podcast where I interview CMOs, CEOs and tech leaders and find something in that conversation that makes you smarter at the dinner table. So first up, we've got Lisa Bowman, a veteran CMO. She was at UPS for 15 years and she's now leading marketing at the Cleaning Authority in Atlanta, Georgia. This episode will be particularly interesting to any marketers in Georgia, in fact. Also any marketers thinking about franchising and how on earth do you manage a brand when you've got lots of different locations. And finally, it'll be really interesting if you actually want to hear what it's like leading marketing at a mid-market business in the US and not the LinkedIn and X AI marketing hype and playbooks that you see all the time. I hope you enjoy.
I like it. Yeah, I like the pink, especially because, I'm in Atlanta, and it has been overcast and raining literally for days. We're joking about the fact that it's been raining for 40 days and 40 nights. It's awful.
Oh my goodness.
And it's very, very hot and really humid. And so I'm looking outside into my front garden and the sky is gray and the air is thick. So the pink is just a nice...
Yeah, exactly. No, and is it one of those places, so I did a dinner in Chicago with a bunch of different CMOs and it felt like, I mean, obviously Chicago's, massive, but still it felt like a lot of the CMOs kind of knew each other. Do you think that's a similar thing in Atlanta?
I think to some extent. So there are some marketing cohorts here, like the American Marketing Association. Which is a misnomer because it is global, but it started as the American Marketing Association. I was the former board chair. But there's a very, very strong group here. It's the third largest chapter in the country. So yes, there is a community of marketers here for sure, because we have a large number of Fortune 500 companies headquartered in Atlanta. So we have Delta Airlines, Coca-Cola, Home Depot, UPS, the package courier, CNN for news. I'm trying to think of what else. We've got a really concentrated population of very large global companies that are here. So Mercedes has their North American headquarters here. So we do have a large concentration of senior marketers in the city that do come together and do know each other and support each other, which is good.
And especially, I mean, I don't know what your setup is in terms of remote or in office or that kind of stuff, but I was working remote yesterday and I find it really difficult when you're at kind of home by yourself. And I think that's where, if you've got those marketing groups and stuff like that, where you can just meet up, even if it's once a week or once a quarter, it makes a huge difference.
I agree. So doing what I do, right? I'm a CMO for hire. So I go into different companies and serve as a CMO. Some people may call it fractional. To me, it's a little bit different than that. But for the last 6 years, I've basically worked at home. My clients are not all in Atlanta. Many of them are in New York. And so occasionally I'll travel to a client office. But prior to that, and candidly prior to the pandemic, I was in the office every day. And so there's pluses and minuses to both, but I do miss having that people interaction. And so I don't mind going into an office a couple of times a week. I don't want to do it every day. It's a waste of time to sit in traffic and sit in the car to do that. Yeah. I could be more productive working, but I don't mind the human interaction, right? Sometimes at home it gets lonely with the dog. So It's just the two of us.
Macchiato, just you and Macchiato.
Exactly. It's just the two of us and whoever I'm on Zoom or Teams with.
Yeah.
And that's...
And for kind of people who are maybe don't know the kind of Atlanta marketing scene that well, and, looking at your kind of CV and places you've been that CMO for hire and kind of come in, set up the team, could you give us kind of a quick fire rundown of the types of places you've worked at? And maybe some of your highs and lows?
Sure. I have to be a little careful about some of my clients and disclosing their names, but career-wise, I worked for big companies starting out. So I worked at UPS for 15 years. Obviously, global company, Fortune 50, really big company in executive level marketing roles. And then I took a little bit of a sidestep to go to the UPS Foundation, which was UPS's philanthropic arm, and served. In the course of that role, I managed an employee giving campaign for a global nonprofit called United Way, which had a partnership with UPS as well as a bunch of other companies, and subsequently got recruited by United Way to serve as their global CMO. which I did for almost 5 years until the pandemic hit. And then when that happened, right, everybody lost their job, including me. And so I was fortunate in that I had that marketing experience and I'd worked at this really interesting intersection of profit and purpose. And during the pandemic, that was a thing, it was a need, right? People needed to know, how do I still communicate without it sounding gratuitous right now, given what we're all dealing with? And so how do I weave purpose and safety and that human element into my messaging while I'm continuing to market and try and drive revenue? And so for me, I'd love to say it was skill. Candidly, I got lucky. To some extent, I was in the right time at the right.
There's always a bit of luck, isn't there?
Right, always. And so I had people that started reaching out to me, and I thought, well, okay, great, I'll do my own thing. And so I have worked with small companies, big companies, nonprofits, everything from a med spa whose injector wanted to learn to build and teach training classes for other injectors on how to do Botox and developing a brand for her and for that practice, all the way up to large nonprofits that were engaged in new initiatives. I've worked for an AI-fueled direct marketing agency as an interim.
Oh, how does that work? What does that mean?
So what they do is they engage in direct marketing. They're like an agency.
Yeah.
They do direct marketing, but all of their marketing is really fueled by AI that helps them understand who is most likely to respond, who is going to respond based on very specific messaging or the weight of a cardstock or the colors used, certain keywords, things like that, all fueled by AI to help them with predictive modeling. And really fascinating.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting that you mentioned the pandemic as well, where everyone had that shared experience of, oh my God, okay, I'm now shut away at home. And to your point, maybe companies needed to be a bit more human to reach them. But then now we're seeing AI where sometimes you're getting the lack of human touch and it's just mass personalization. And I think the balance of the two is where you can, win or do the best if you've got a bit of human and a bit of AI. When you go into any of the companies that you've mentioned recently, how do you think about, yes, implementing and using AI, but then also still remaining human and humanness?
A great question. And I think it really depends upon what my assignment is in that company, right? So if I'm going in and I'm working on marketing messaging, for example, it might be to use AI as a thought partner for crafting messaging and saying, how do we feel that this is going to resonate with target A or target B? It might be that if I'm in there for process, right, if they're going through marketing transformation, for example, then using AI to possibly automate some tasks, create efficiencies, or even help identify what we can or should be doing differently than we haven't been. In the current role that I'm in, we are using it to help us with creative a little bit, which is it's a time savings for us at this point, because while we do have a creative team, sometimes it's harder to articulate verbally a vision of what you want.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
Right. So if you use AI imagery to say that, okay, creative team, this is what I'm looking for. Now you create it. Right, provided that it's not giving you something. We had a scenario a couple of weeks ago. AI is good when it's good, and when it's bad, sometimes it's just silly. And we were creating an image of something. It was an animal, and it added a fifth leg to the animal, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not quite production ready.
Those are the moments that you look at it and go, really? This isn't that difficult.
Yeah.
Golden Retriever does not have a fifth leg.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, but I think it's really helpful sometimes. While I'm a creative, I can't draw. I'm not a graphic designer. I know what I want something to look like, but I can't always articulate that verbally in a way that a creative is going to understand it. But if I give AI a really solid prompt to help me do a mock-up, that's something that I can hand to the creative team and say, okay, I'm looking for something that looks like this. And that to me is an efficiency play, rather than them doing 5 iterations of it, trying to understand what's in Lisa's head that's not making it out of her mouth articulately. I can give them a picture and say, I'm looking for something like this.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what's super exciting now, which is the same way that we see with software developers, where people who are non-technical can now start to write a bit of code because you just need to, learn English to use a tool like Claude Code or Cursor or any one of these. I think the same kind of thing is happening in marketing, where you can start to do some of the other jobs where previously you might have needed specialists, and then you can hand over the stuff which you can't quite do the final bit to a graphic designer for that final bit. And it ultimately saves you time, and the graphic designer can work on more projects that are higher value at that final stage.
Totally agree with that. I think that, we have to be careful, right? It's moving really, really fast, sometimes faster than we are.
And every day there's something new, isn't there? It's hard to keep up.
Every day it's something new. And it's funny because I was having a conversation with somebody that's a little bit older. And she said to me, well, I don't use AI. I said, yeah, you actually do, and you don't realize it. I said, sometimes do you ever make a phone call, or do you use a chat function on a website to get help? I'm like, that's AI. And she's like, well, those are agents. I said, they're AI agents. A lot of times you're not speaking with a human on the other end. I said, or even in the way that we are using search today, right? Search has changed. And so we tend to ask questions of search today in more natural language than we would have, I would say, even a year ago, where you would just type something into the search bar. But today, I just read a statistic, and I don't want to miscite it, but I think it said that the average number of words in a search has increased from 25 a couple of months ago to almost 67. Right? So we're starting to engage with agentic AI conversationally, where we're opening a conversation to say, hey, Noah, my AI agent, right? I'm looking to learn about the following things. Can you tell me about this, that, or the other? So when you're typing that into Google search, for example, it's framing the conversation very differently than if you just typed in 2 words that were, tell me about fall fashion or whatever it was, right? So you can get a more in-depth response that is also designed to lead you to engage and ask more questions. Because if you think about it, the AI is building off of what we feed it. So the more that AI can engage us and get us to take those deeper conversations, ask follow-up questions, pivot and put in different things, it's building on all of that.
I think it's interesting what you said there about the person that you were talking to who said, they hadn't used AI, but they'd definitely use AI in some form where they might have been interacting with customer service bots in some way. But I don't know if you feel this, but I think when I speak to CMOs and marketing teams, I think there is a bit of a disconnect between what's talked a lot about on LinkedIn or Twitter or X, whatever, versus what's happening in some of the, mid-market companies in the US, which are ultimately a lot of the time the backbone of the US economy. And a lot of those companies don't have the budget or the expertise to bring AI in. And a lot of them feel a bit uncomfortable or maybe not ready or don't understand it fully. So how do you, because obviously as you're now at the cleaning authority, which isn't a Delta Airlines or one of the big Fortune 50, how do you manage that relationship with AI?
So I think that, it's a matter, like I said, of figuring out where you can plug it in for those smaller companies or even individual businesses, small businesses. You're right. Those are the backbone of the economy. And the cleaning authority is a franchised business. So all of our cleaning teams are owned by franchisees who are small business owners, right? But as we look at using it at the corporate level, it's how do we create efficiencies to free us up to do other things that are impactful to the business? And how do we take those task-driven things and migrate them to AI so that we are opening up capacity for strategic initiatives? So that's one thing. The second thing is, I think as small businesses, right, and this could be an individually owned business, same thing. You don't have to do enterprise level AI deployment, right? You could be using Claude, or you could be using Gemini, or whatever it is, your tool of choice, to help you with things like, let me find my voice, or hey, I own a cleaning business, I'm not a marketer, help me write content for social, because I know that I need to use social, but that's not what I do, right? My job is to own and operate this business. I'm not a marketer. So I think it's a matter of where you are along that spectrum. What I do find a little scary about AI is I saw a report earlier in this week, I think it was yesterday, that one of the Ivy League colleges here in the US had what they think is their biggest cheating scandal ever with students using AI, right? And so
Which one?
I think it was Brown University.
So they're all getting 95% on the exam then.
Yeah, so they had a midterm exam, which was a take-home exam or remote, and a really high percentage of the students scored extremely well. On the final exam, which was in person, a huge number of students failed it. And so the operating theory was that they had used AI to help them with the test. And so the cure for it was that they disregarded the midterm results and heavily weighted the finals towards the student's grade. But I think that that brings up some of the ethical issues with AI, right? There's already data out there that says that people don't like the concept of AI generated advertising, right? They don't want to see AI people, they want to see real humans. So learning how to balance that, learning how to flag when something is AI and when to call that out appropriately without damaging your brand, I think is something tricky that we're going to need to work through as a society and sort of what the rules of engagement are. Because again, this is moving so fast every day that we're all struggling to keep up.
And could you help give us a kind of sneak preview, inside view of, your day in the life, as a CMO of the Cleaning Authority, where that is a kind of mid-market US company, which, as we said, a lot of those are the backbone of the US economy. Like, what does your day-to-day look like? Maybe what are some of the things which you're maybe frustrated with right now, or some of the things which you've implemented and are really working? I'm really interested and curious for people to hear.
Yeah, you know what? One of the things I love about what I do is that I really don't get frustrated because I don't.
It's just you.
Yeah, it's awesome because every client that I go into, I'm there for a finite amount of time and they've brought me in to solve a problem. So to me, that's not frustrating. It's actually fun and exciting. And I learn with every single client. So while I understand franchising from my background at UPS with launching the UPS store, which is completely franchised, and working at United Way, which operates very similar to a franchise model, I didn't, when I started here, I didn't know their business. And so I get to learn their businesses, the unique challenges of the company. But on a daily basis, right now, we're going through market transformation and marketing transformation, really trying to figure out what the next generation of our marketing needs to look like with AI, with the use of digital, with all of the things. So to me, that's really exciting and really fun. Again, I had referenced to somebody that I'm working with. I said, yeah, I'm the girl that goes in to do cleanup on aisle 5. When something falls and breaks all over the floor, they call me to come in and fix it. And I come in and fix it. All the bottles go up, everything is cleaned up, it's nice and neat and packaged up for you, and then I move on to the next. And
I think that's your new LinkedIn bio headline.
it might be clean up on aisle 5, girl. But I love what I do.
And I've started kind of, speaking to lots of different marketers who work with kind of different franchisees. And one of the big things that comes up is you've got loads of different locations, which as a result throws up all kinds of branding issues. And then also maybe you're trying to be hyper localized and do different campaigns at different venues. And you've got clearly lots of experience with franchisee companies, whether it's in at UPS or Cleaning Authority. What are some tips that you would give to another CMO or someone who's just started as a CMO at a franchisee style company?
Great question, thank you. And you're right, you nailed it. The consistency of brand is really, really important. And the other thing is really important for a franchise organization is reputation. Because when you have reviews for your various locations that are across the spectrum, from a search perspective, particularly in today's world of AI discoverability, that tends to impact the system as a whole. And so making sure that reputation is up, that you are being consistent with how you're talking about the business. That was a really big challenge that I had in a past role. When I was at United Way, because United Way is hyper-local, right? Global organization, hyper-local in the community, and the issues that we addressed in each community tended to be a little different, right? They all rolled up into key things: health, education, and financial stability. But how you talked about that and what that meant in your community, right, was very, very different. So in one community, education could mean that children are reading on grade level by grade 3. In another community that may have largely English as a second language population, it might have meant that there were special programs and things for parents who were not native English speakers, yet the children were, because they were in school. And so because of that, what we did had gotten a little fragmented based on your familiarity with your local chapter. And so we did a big rebranding initiative that I led, which was global in terms of its architecture, and laid out the 3 things that we did, which at that time were United Way fights for the health, education, and financial stability of every person in every community, right? Broadly, that's what we do. But then taking it to hyper-local, and what that means here in Atlanta is we focus on this problem that impacts our community. Here in Miami, that means this. And this is what we're trying to. So I think that making sure from a master brand architecture perspective that you're really clear on who you are, what you do, and why it matters, and then being able to translate that hyper locally, right? In the case of a franchise organization, you've got a franchise owner that's a small business, right? Woven into the fabric of that community, that lives in that community, works in that community, services that community. And without all of those small businesses, our communities wouldn't be stable, right? You can't just live on Fortune 50 alone. And so, I think that somehow we've lost a little bit of that. And it's something that I'd like to see brought back into messaging about the value of small businesses in our communities and what that means.
100%. And I think that the reason that maybe I'm even sometimes too excited about how AI can help those mid-market businesses is because for the first time, it's almost a great leveler where you can have a smaller marketing team, but actually start to try and compete and have more success competing with some of these larger brands, which might have 5, 10, 100 times your budget. But because you now have these tools, it's, okay, great. Bob, who's using these AI tools, now feels like Bob times 10, which would never have been possible before.
Exactly. I mean, the same creative at a Fortune 50 with a huge department or a small business owner, party of one, can use Nano Banana as an example to generate the same creative. And have it look professional, and it's going to come out the same, and you don't know. So I agree, it is a leveler. It helps sort of get everybody on the same playing field and give those smaller companies or individuals a leg up that they may not have had before. But that's also where the brand comes in too, right? So in the case of a franchise organization, making sure that you've got the appropriate guardrails in place to govern how you use it so that we are in fact protecting the brand and keeping the messaging consistent.
And the kind of, I quite like to do almost some quickfire questions or stuff. Like one of the questions is, have you got any specific marketing hot takes? So if you've seen something on LinkedIn which you strongly disagree with, or something that keeps coming up which you go, you know what, this is my chance to share this with Atlanta marketers or CMOs in the US.
Yeah, I'm probably going to get crucified for this.
Go on.
We have a lot of people that are out there talking about AI expertise. I'm not sure that we have AI experts yet, right? Because it's so new that I'm not sure that we've developed that robust expertise. The other thing I continue to see on LinkedIn, I'm going to argue with it a little bit. Might not be a popular opinion, but, I keep seeing PowerPoint is dead. It's all about AI. The old tools still work, but AI is a supplement to help us use them better. I have not been able to create slides in another tool that are correct. And that just may be me. It may be user error. But I can create much better slides in PowerPoint by using AI to help me with that content.
And have you got any kind of One thing that I like to do is almost do a chain from different marketers. So are there any marketers or CMOs in Atlanta or that that you'd like for me to interview next or something like that?
You know what? Actually, there's one person, not in Atlanta. It's a dear friend of mine who I've collaborated with on many things. And she actually is one of the few marketers I know that is certified in AI. She holds multiple certifications. Her name is Adrienne Wallace, and she publishes a weekly newsletter on LinkedIn called Meridian Signal. That for any marketer is a hugely valuable resource that they should be reading.
That's super helpful. Amazing.
I learn from her every single week with the content that she puts out. It's super helpful to me. So yeah, that's a resource and a person that I would lift up as probably one of the foremost thought leaders from a CMO perspective in it.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll put that link somewhere down below. And final kind of quickfire questions. We're going to go with the AI tool that you use the most every day would be
Gemini lately, and also I'm having some fun on a personal level with Nano Banana.
Have you got any weird, wacky, personal AI projects that you've been trying or building on the side?
No, just some fun stuff. I wouldn't say they're projects, but I've been giving my brother-in-law a hard time about something, so I've been dropping him into some AI scenery, which has been kind of fun. So.
Okay, good. And if you were to choose to be the CMO at any company that you could pick, what company would it be, and what would you like to do or change?
Oh my gosh, such a loaded question. A loaded question. But at this stage of my career, if I were going to go back into a company as a full-time CMO, it would have to be a brand that I feel really passionate about. And some of those are sectors that I don't have any experience in. But I do believe a marketer is a marketer is a marketer. And so I would say probably the top 3 companies that I would be interested in having a senior level marketing role at would be Elf Beauty, because I love their marketing, I love their products, and big fan of the brand. There is a US-based bagel shop that is a franchise organization called Pop-Up Bagels that has the best bagels I've ever eaten. I'm wild about their bagels. Would love to go work for them and help them promote their brand. And the third, if I were going to pick a third one, I would have to say possibly Adidas, because I am an Adidas Samba wearer. I love my Sambas. So I think it would be really fun to go market products that I truly love and believe in.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Noah.